Welcome to Wildly Wealthy Life, the show that's all about exploring the different paths to a life of freedom and fulfillment and how that ripples through your personal life, family life, and to the community. Join husband and wife power couple Lee and Kat Hughes as they share people's stories from different backgrounds and lifestyles about what it means to live a life well lived. Tune in and take that first step to becoming the best version of yourself, personally and professionally, here on Wildly Wealthy Life.
But do something that makes you feel uncomfortable and then get comfortable doing stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable. And for me, this has been so revolutionary. So I can think back to so many times when I didn't really want to do something. I felt uncomfortable, whether it was reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, sending someone an email, talking to someone in person, taking a leap, asking a boss for a raise, asking a boss to be leveled up into a position that maybe I wasn't quite ready for. Once you start doing those things that make you feel really uncomfortable, you will see your life improves by leaps and bounds. And even if you get a few no's during those uncomfortable moments, just push past and get to the next uncomfortable moment. Because once you kind of go through enough iterations of feeling uncomfortable and going after something crazy that you never probably would have done before, something is going to happen that is good.
Welcome again to Wildly Wealthy Life podcast. My name is Lee. I'm your host, and to my left is my lovely wife, Kat. Kat, who do we have out today?
Today we have Cody Berman. What I love about Cody is his very simplistic approach to personal finance that I think is very, very approachable for all of us. I also love that his parents really started to teach him the value of money at a very young age. So he started young, and now he doesn't only get to teach it, but he also really gets to just live a financially free life. So Cody, how are you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know I was really pumped when you guys reached out to me, and I'm even more excited to be on the show now.
Yeah. So Cody, tell us, just where you're at now, like what do you do? Just a little bit about yourself and just, your background and journey to financial independence.
Sure. I'll try to keep it short and sweet because I'm sure we can dig in wherever you guys want to. But So I'm 24 now. I quit my corporate banking job back when I was 22 years old. I got introduced to financial independence at 19. I'm kind of going backwards here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a wild ride, like you said. It was kind of a dream when I first discovered about financial independence and side hustling and all this cool stuff. And here I am 5 years later, and I don't have a traditional job. Don't worry, I'm still working my butt off. But it's not in a corporate setting. I'm making my own hours. Like you guys just saw, I had to change my shirt because I realized we were doing video. So there's a lot of awesome benefits to living this lifestyle and realizing the power that money gives you once you understand how to handle it.
Yeah, awesome. So let's backtrack just a little bit. How did this all start for you?
So growing up, I grew up in a probably dead middle class household, and my mom and dad were like really hardcore into teaching me about the power of compound interest. And so one thing that my dad would do from age baby to age 10, because that's when I got my first side hustle. We can talk about that in a second. But he would match anything that I saved and put away. And as someone who's like a 6-year-old or 8-year-old, I mean, I can't think in the mind of a 6 or 8-year-old right now. Most of them don't want to save money. You want to go buy the new toy or the new pack of cards, whatever that thing might be. But my dad incentivized us and he said, hey, Cody and Sam, my brother, if you guys put $10 away, I'll match it. And so you'll have $20 the next day. And that was just like, I think that concept really stuck with me, even at a subconscious level, as I moved through, middle school and high school and started getting real jobs and realizing like, hey, if I put this chunk of money away, it will actually earn money for me. Now, real returns are not typically 100% overnight. That's definitely an anomaly. I thank my dad for that. But I realized that if I started putting money away and investing in things like Roth IRAs and even CDs and high yield savings accounts, that my money would make money for me without me doing anything at all. So that was kind of my first foray into personal finance. And then it wasn't until I read the 4-Hour Workweek, learned about separating your time from your money. And that's how I kind of went down the financial independence rabbit hole.
Wow, that is such an awesome story. I love how, your parents really like gave you that value because I'm sure, like maybe at that time you didn't realize, like, as you said, in your 6-year-old mind, it's like, I just want toys,
Yeah.
Now it really stuck with you and definitely just made a difference in your life. Now that you're in into your adult years and all that stuff, what is now, your picture of wealth also evolves over time. Now where you're at, what is just kind of like your picture of a wildly wealthy life?
So definitely before, like even up to when I was first figuring out financial independence, like I always thought wealth was having a mansion, driving the Lambo. Like I wanted to be a baller. I wanted to be making like, $1 million a year and wanted everyone to know that I was rich. And you're right. It has shifted so much after, meeting people in this community and seeing what was possible. And now to me, like the ultimate form of wealth is time freedom. And I think that's the common denominator for a lot of people, whether it's the FI space or the side hustle space or the entrepreneurship space, wherever you are. Like everyone at the end of the day wants that time freedom. That is the ultimate form of wealth, because you can have all the money in the world, but if you're working 100-hour weeks and you never see your kids and you never hang out with your family and friends, like what's the point? So I think at the end of the day, like that time freedom is so, so valuable. And that's, to me, that's literally what wealth is time freedom.
What do you gain most from the freedom of time for yourself?
I just like not being beholden to like a certain schedule that my boss makes. Or if I want to, my mom needs a ride to the airport on a Tuesday, I don't have to go ask my boss for the day off to give it to her. Or if my little cousin is having a birthday party or first communion or whatever on a Friday, I don't have to go and ask permission to go and do that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And while that might mean that I'm working like some Saturdays and some Sundays to catch up on my entrepreneurial side hustle stuff, because I definitely work probably harder now than I did in my corporate banking job, it's just really nice having that flexibility of time. So I'm definitely not one in the FI movement to like, I'm not a big RE proponent of the retire early, but I just like having the time optionability and flexibility. I think that's just so key.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I really like your website, flytofy.com for everybody out there. What I like is that you have kind of this nice kind of laser focused approach with like earning, saving, investing. And then each of those categories, obviously there's a lot of deep dives that you can do in a lot of different blogs and stories that you can tell on there. But could we kind of go through each of those maybe? Like what is earning, what is saving, what is investing, or maybe like a couple of quick tips out of each of those areas as well?
Yeah. So it definitely depends on the person. Like for me, I was big into not having that corporate structure. I really don't like having a boss, someone telling me what to do. So for me, like the earning part came through side hustling and entrepreneurship. Now, that is definitely not for everyone. And I'm definitely not a proponent. Some people are like, everyone should do a side hustle or whatever. If your corporate job is the lane to wealth, like if you know that if you really hustle and grind and work your butt off in your corporate job, and that means you'll get, $50,000 extra that year, and you might do a side hustle that makes you $5,000, do the corporate job. Like that seems like a no-brainer to me. And a lot of people think especially in the FI space, we're so side hustle, side hustle, side hustle. People think that's like the only way to do it. But if you see a clear lane, whether it's in your corporate job or through real estate or for some other means, that is the way you want to earn more. So again, it's situational, but earning more is just figuring out the lane that works best for you and then dedicating a lot of energy toward that lane.
Perfect. And I think with like myself, I'm more in that like kind of corporate 9-to-5 type thing. And then my side hustle is like my freedom, almost getting it back. And like, just, it's a fun thing with painting or like acting and different things that we're able to do. So it's a lot of, and also real estate. Forgot that one. Yeah. There are a lot of ways that it is a very personal thing, but definitely like, obviously you need income. So there's different streams of that. For savings, what kind of tips would you have for people, maybe like people who are new to savings or just have the idea, like what kind of approaches would you have for them?
So the first big thing is just knowing where your money's going. And I know you hear this time and time again if you listen to podcasts or read blogs in this space. Because like if you want a budget, you have to know where you're spending first. So if you want your groceries to be, say, $400 a month, but you're spending $1,000 a month and you don't know that, like it's going to be really hard to get to that 400 number. So figure out where you're at first, and then you can start to make adjustments. And then after you understand where your money's going, try to cut down on the big three. That's what I like to call it anyways: the housing, the transportation, and the food, because that's where 70% of the average American monthly paycheck is going toward the three categories, which is absolutely crazy to me. And something that my co-host on my podcast says all the time. So this is a thing that he says with his coaching clients. He's like, hey, what did you eat for dinner last Tuesday? And they're like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. And he's like, all right. He's like, well, what's the last like concert or vacation or fun thing that you did? And their eyes light up and they start telling him all about this thing. And he's like, that's what you should be spending money on. Don't be spending money on these things that you're not going to remember the next week, the next month, things that are not going to have a lasting impact on your life. Like, those are not the things that you should be allocating 70% of your paycheck towards.
Yeah,
that's really good.
That's really awesome, actually, because again, it's something that we don't think about, but if you put it that way, we really do remember a lot of like the really fun things that we actually do value, like time with our family or time with friends and going to a concert with a friend. Like that's so much more something that you would like remember than, hey, I went out to dinner like last Tuesday and I can't even remember the name of the restaurant. So that's awesome. Now with the investing, I know that, again, all of these things are so personal. It literally varies like so much from person to person. So what is your approach to investing?
So I'm definitely starting to dabble more in real estate, but basically my general philosophy is keep it as simple as possible. So for all my friends, I'm like, listen, you literally need like 1 to 3 funds if you just want to keep as hands off as possible, whether it's Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, whoever you want, and just get like a total stock market index fund. Or if you're going to buy a house, get a total bond market fund. Like it can be as simple as you want it. I mean, of course, there are people who make a lot of money with even day trading. I have friends who make a lot of money day trading. I have friends who do really well picking individual value stocks. But if you're someone who just literally never wants to think about your investments again, pick like 1 or 2 mutual funds that track like a broad indice, like the total stock market or total bond market funds, and just let it ride. Hopefully, if you're someone who's investing, you're not going to need to touch that money in the next X number of years. Like for me, the money I put away into my 401k, into my IRAs, like I don't even expect to want to need that money within the next 20, 30 years. Like that money's there to ride. I'm just going to let the power of compound interest, which again, we'll probably talk about a little bit more. I'll let the power of compound interest take over.
Yeah. And just a gentle little plug for you too, because I know that you've got a few different classes on your Flatify website. There's the Vanguard 101 course, I believe. And
Yeah.
what kind of things can we find on your site where people can visit you?
Yeah. So the Vanguard 101. So that was the genesis of that was kind of what I was just telling you about. All my friends are like, hey, Cody, I don't know how to invest. I don't know how to look at 10Ks and evaluate stocks. I'm like, no. Like you don't need to do that at all. Like I said, you need like 1 to 3 funds. So I built out this whole entire thing because I was so sick. It sounds awful, but I was so sick of sitting down with my friends and spending like 4 to 6 hours setting up all their investment accounts and trying to teach them what the stuff was all about. So instead, I just built a basically mini course on my site where I could send a lot of people to, and not just friends. Now I've had over 10,000 people go and work through those Vanguard articles and set up their own Vanguard account, which is super cool. And it allows people that I literally don't even know to get the same information that I'm giving to some of my really good friends.
Yeah.
But in that too, I think there's a little bit of creativity, entrepreneurship in that, because you found a need. You found a way to save your freedom of time.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 6 hours a shot. Now you've made this one thing that's be able to use over and over and over and over again. That's really awesome. Let's jump into that power of compound interest. Einstein used to say it's like the 8th wonder of the world. So
it is.
Yeah.
And it still is.
What are your thoughts on that?
So something I like to say, and this is language I use a lot of my peers since I'm 24. So okay, let's do a scenario, and it might seem a little bit far-fetched because people don't have astronomical savings rates like a lot of people do in the FI community. But let's say a 25-year-old, whether they're someone who went to the trades at 18 or they got into a corporate career at 22 when they graduate college, let's say they save up $100,000 by 25. Now, there's a but this rule called the rule of 72. And basically what the rule of 72 says is that if you divide 72 by the expected return that you're going to get in the market, that is the number of years it will take for your money to double. So let's use the last 100 years for an example. So it's been about 7% annual returns compounded, adjusted for inflation over the past 100 years. Let's just use that as a benchmark. So if you divide 72 by that 7, you're looking at about roughly 10 years for your money to double. If you have $100,000 at 25, you have $200,000 at 35, you have $400,000 at 45, you have $800,000 at 55, and then you have $1.6 million at 65 without adding to that initial contribution of $100,000 at age 25. That to me is absolutely mind-boggling. And like the fact that they don't teach this in schools, they don't tell you that this stuff is possible is nuts. Like if I knew that going in, like my main focus, like, and it was because I was very lucky that I discovered this at 19, but like most people's main focuses should just be like bulk up your savings as much as you can during those early years before you hit lifestyle inflation and you have kids and you have a mortgage. When your lifestyle is still pretty lean and you're living that college or high school lifestyle, whatever the stage of life you might be in. So yeah, that to me is like the awesomest thing ever, that compound interest, that example right there.
That's amazing. So when you have all these things that like have evolved for you, you're obviously really working hard, to live like this amazing lifestyle. What are you doing to be even more intentional, and so you can refine your growth even more? Because there's always room for expansion, always more room for growth. What are the intentional things that you do to grow even more?
So is this talking about like on a personal level or as a business?
A little bit of both. Let's do both. Yeah.
Okay. So I've definitely kind of advanced past, I like don't really consume much personal finance information at all anymore. I
Mm,
feel like I'm definitely not an expert. There are people who are so much smarter than me, but I feel like I've gotten like 90% of what I need from that
mm,
whole mindset, from that whole community. Still have a ton of friends in the space, but like I pretty much don't listen to as many. I used to listen to like 20 different personal finance podcasts.
mhm,
Definitely cut that down. I focus a lot more on like self-improvement, mindfulness, like making sure that my body and mind are in tune, making sure that I'm like putting healthy food into my body, making sure that I'm exercising right. So I feel like I've transcended a little bit. Like once I got those finances down, because if you don't have those finances down, it's all you can think about. I know a lot of people who live paycheck to paycheck. They're not focusing on their health. They're not focusing on their mental wellness because they need to make sure the lights don't get shut off. So I
right.
think once you get past that, like, okay, I'm really set. I'm doing most of the things right. And even if you're 80 or 90% doing the things right, that's good too.
Yeah.
In your financial life, like then you can start focusing on mindset, like growing as a person, pushing your own mental boundaries, like feeling alive and feeling like you want to wake up with a purpose every day. So that's a lot of the type of stuff I've been focusing on. I've been listening to podcasts like Sam Harris, and he does the Making Sense podcast, the Tim Ferriss podcast, like those types of podcasts where you just have these big idea revolutionary thinkers. So that's on a personal level. In my businesses, I've been doing a lot more outsourcing, and that is really tough for me because I'm super, super frugal to the core. So like paying even $10 a month for some service that's going to make my life a whole lot easier. Last year, I probably would have taken the free roundabout way that would take me 30 more minutes every time I did that task. But now I'm like, you know what? That is not worth it at all. My time is worth more than this $10 that I can pay to cut down 30 minutes every time I do X task. I've
Mm,
also hired some VAs for some businesses, so that makes life a whole lot easier when I'm not answering emails. And I was like catching myself answering emails at like, midnight or 2 a.m. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Like, this is not why I'm going after this financial independence goal. So hopefully I hit both of the personal and the business ones on the head there with how I'm trying to improve past the financial stuff.
yeah, and you know what? I think what I'm really hearing is that you are living a whole life, and it's not just like improvement in one area, but because you have gone to a place where you don't have to learn so much about personal finance anymore because you've actually honed in on it and you've kind of mastered it, even though you said, there's always so much to learn. It's not like you're the expert on it. And I don't think anybody can really be the expert on it.
Yeah.
But now that you've freed yourself from having to really learn on those things, you have this amount of time to be able to focus on yourself and your health and your lifestyle. And I think that's really, really amazing because not a lot of people have that. And so that is very, very inspiring. And so in that vein, since you now also have like a lot of free time, what do you do as, just in your personal life or even like through your business? What do you do to be able to kind of give back to the community?
Yeah. So, well, the first thing I'll just say is I don't have that much free time. Like you're just insinuating there. I definitely work super hard and like
Yeah.
I'm always trying to grow my businesses and stuff. But I've been getting a lot more active. Last year I didn't volunteer as much as I'd like to, but like 2 weekends ago I volunteered for this fun Special Olympics bowling event.
Mm.
And this next month I'm volunteering at the food pantry that's like a mile away. So I really try to do, and I definitely don't do as much as I should. And I feel like everyone says that you can always do more. But I'm trying like at least every month or twice a month to go and volunteer like a couple of hours, 3 or 4 hours at some event. Once I get in a little more of a advanced financial position where I have like too much excess cash to know what to do with, I'll definitely start upping my charitable donations. I did a little bit last year, but it was only maybe 1% of my income, which isn't that high, but I'm 24. I'm still building up that portfolio. But that's definitely something I want to do in the future. And one more thing that I think is really cool. So my girlfriend Lauren is like really big into public health. So something we've been toying around with, and she's actually spoken to a few contacts, is doing like global volunteerism, where we'd go and volunteer in, say, a third world country for 3 months. We'd live there. We'd have housing and lodging and basically just help out with things they need, education, health related stuff, just playing with them. Because a lot of them, they'd have family that passed away. They don't have a home. So a lot of that stuff, I'm really interested in kind of getting involved with that too. Because for me anyway, like giving money is awesome. But when I make like a human impact on someone and I can like see the look in their eyes, that's what really gets me. That's what gets me fired up about volunteering and about helping and about offering up my time.
That's really awesome. We've had an opportunity to be able to go to Thailand and do some work in some different missions and homes with kids who've been rescued from human trafficking, and just like you hear the stories, but then just how children and kids just they want that love and they want to feel like a family, or feel friends, and just that, like you said, that the human impact of that is just unreal when you kneel down and give, just a little kid a hug who's been through whatever. It might've been like 2-3 years ago, but how they've recovered and everything is just,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome, guys. That's awesome. Seriously.
Now, with the idea of community too, I know you started, I think you've started like more of a fire community through your website and that, but you also have a lot of different tools and resources for people to use there. One thing I liked, there's the zero-based budget for side hustle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Playing around with that. Sorry, it's all the words. It's early.
A lot of words together. Yeah.
Zero-based budget. That's a tongue twister. No, really.
But also, like, you have a lot of like life hacks in there with like traveling for free and whatnot. I believe you recently did a trip to Peru. Is that?
I did. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah.
Was that part of like your life hacks, or were you able to use points or something for that?
Oh yeah. So the flights I got completely free round trip to Lima with points. I think I used it was United. I used my United points for that. So I got that absolutely free. And my 2 friends that went with me went for free, which was pretty cool. And then, while we were there, I used some points to pay for some Airbnb accommodation, and we stayed in an Airbnb for about a week. In terms of other accommodation, I was mostly staying in hostels, which a lot of people are turned off by hostels because you're sharing a room with like 10 random strangers, but we were paying $9 a night. So all in all, we went out to eat. I'm not kidding. We went out to eat probably almost every meal, maybe one meal a day. We wouldn't go out to eat, but it was also really, really cheap. Like you could get dinner for $5, but I spent just under $2,000 for an entire month traveling through South America, like all over, and eating out almost every meal. So I'd like to think that's a pretty good bang for my buck there.
That's huge.
That's amazing. Yeah. And just a side note on hostels are awesome.
They are.
I went to New Zealand and stayed at a hostel, and it was like $15 a night, and it was amazing. And I ate tuna pretty much every day, and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's called traveling on a really tight budget. But But I basically, because going back to what you said earlier, when you don't want to think about, you don't really remember what you eat. You remember the moment. So I remember I specifically spent a ton of money on activities, like everything from, skydiving, bungee jumping, to going into a cave. Those were the things I spent money on. And then I said, you know what? I'm okay with eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as long as I can do all these crazy activities. So totally relate on that. So then what would your kind of like 3 actionable tips to, for our listeners to basically encourage them to live like their wildly wealthy life?
Yeah. Well, I just want to touch on one thing that you mentioned, Lee, and because it was a tongue twister, the zero-based budget side hustle game. That is a lot of words jam-packed into one. But that's a way when I first started like side hustling, thinking about how I could do this entertainment stuff. Because I'm 24. A lot of my friends were always going out to the bars. That's like what a lot of 24-year-olds do anyway. And so basically what I did was like, okay, like I can't do these fun activities unless I can earn the money in a side hustle. So that's basically the genesis of the zero-based budget side hustle game. So like if I made, $500 doing whatever your side hustle is in a month, whether it's, walking dogs on Rover or driving for Uber or delivering food with DoorDash, whatever that might be, that's your fun money that you can go to concerts with, that you can go out drinking at the bars with, that you can go to restaurants with. And if you use that as your parameters and the side hustles are just like an extra fun thing, you'll never have to budget out that category ever. It's always going to be zeroed out with those side hustles. That's okay. Awesome. Sorry. I just wanted to mention that because I think it's a really cool way to think about it.
We have, some of the other guests that we've had too, it's like they don't buy like lavish things or toys, so to speak, unless they have a side hustle that pays for it. So whether it's real estate, some type of like investment that they made or whatnot, if that investment is doing like $200 a month for them, then that's their budget for, their new motorbike with a horn.
So Kat, now I'll transition and answer your question. I wrote this out for you guys because I wanted to have a good 3-step action plan for your listeners. Awesome. So we already touched on 2 of them, but action tip 1 is to know where your money is going. This is so important. And I think a lot of people just honestly fool themselves that they think they know where their money is going until you like actually track it on a spreadsheet or in an app like a Mint or you need a budget, whatever it might be. Just you really need to know on like a tactical level, like exactly how much you're spending in each category, or else you will not be able to improve. Action tip 2, and we touched on this earlier, is map your more money strategy. And like I mentioned before, whether that's a career, whether that's a side hustle, whether that's real estate, whatever that path is that makes the most sense for you, go after that, because you can only frugal so hard. Once you're living under a bridge and eating food out of a dumpster and you don't have health insurance, like there's no less frugaling you can do. You can't go under zero for your expenses, but you can go as high as you want with your income. So figure out that next make more money strategy. The last tip is action tip number 3. And this one's a little bit different, a little outside of the financial realm, but do something that makes you feel uncomfortable and then get comfortable doing stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable. And for me, this has been so revolutionary. So I can think back to so many times when I didn't really want to do something. I felt uncomfortable, whether it was reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, sending someone an email, talking to someone in person, taking a leap, asking a boss for a raise, asking a boss to be leveled up into a position that maybe I wasn't quite ready for. Once you start doing those things that make you feel really uncomfortable, you will see your life improves by leaps and bounds. And even if you get a few no's during those uncomfortable moments, just push past and get to the next uncomfortable moment. Because once you kind of go through enough iterations of feeling uncomfortable and going after something crazy that you never probably would have done before, something is going to happen that is good. Like, I don't know what the percentage might be, but something good will happen to you. I promise you that.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love those tips. Very, definitely very actionable and simple enough, but really, really like so much depth to it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. Are you ready for our quick 10 rapid fire questions?
I'm so ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so quick 10 rapid fire questions are questions that we ask our guests, and we want our guests to say the first thing that comes to their mind. We don't want you to censor them. And some of them relate to our theme of our podcast, and some of them are just fun little stuff that we want to know about our guests. So I'm going to start with number 1. If you could choose one book to live by, what would it be?
4-Hour Work Week.
For
Tim
our-
Ferriss.
Personal hero, living, deceased, or someone you know or not know. Just
The first one that comes to mind. Let's see. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. I love the stuff that he's done and the impact that he's made.
we're gonna see him a little later this month.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
We're excited. Number 3, the one thing you intentionally have to do every day.
I make sure to go on a walk every day, and I have it in my calendar just because I like getting sunlight and being outside, because I'm someone who works on my laptop all the time.
Nice.
Yeah. I share that one with you.
Mhm.
One hobby that brings you the most joy.
I'm going to say snowboarding, because I just went this past weekend and it was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I see the board over your.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. That's
Okay.
cool.
Number 5, most rewarding thing you've done for someone in need.
So I did this huge like closet clean out and got rid of like 80% of my clothes, because I was just like, I don't need any of this stuff. And I walked it down like full trash bags to the homeless vet shelter, and their faces just lit up. They were so pumped. It was a few days before Christmas, and I don't know. That's just something that I did last year and it came to mind.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. That's really good. First movie quote that pops in your head.
Oh, this is bad.
Do it, say it.
All right. From Nacho Libre. Nacho.
Good choice.
I love it.
Number 7, last big purchase you made for yourself.
Probably my laptop. It was like a newer version. It was like $1,500, but it's been awesome. And the processing speed's like phenomenal.
Nice.
Awesome. A food you cannot live without.
I'm going to go with a sauce and sriracha.
Respectable.
Hey, someone said butter on one of our interviews, so that's great. I love that. Shout out to Michelle Bosch. Okay, number 9, what is your spirit animal?
Ooh, spirit animal. I'm just going to say tiger, because that was the first one that came to mind.
I'll take it. It's great. All right, now finish this sentence. If I'm stuck on an island by myself.
I'm going to figure out a way to get off.
Boom, mic drop. Oh, wow. Those are awesome questions.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for humoring us. I love it.
Thank you for the awesome questions.
Now, with you have your website. Where else can people find you? How can we, learn more about you? How can we jump into any of your classes and whatnot?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this podcast, if you're looking to be wildly wealthy, then you'll probably enjoy my podcast, The FI Show, or the Financial Independence Show, where we interview a bunch of people who are either wealthy or they're well on their way. What else do I got going on? I have the Side Hustle courses, which is not on Fly to Fly, but you can find it through Fly to Fly. There's the course link there. Oh, something interesting that I teamed up with a couple of other people, my good friends, Grant Sabatier and PT, founder of FinCon, and we're running a personal finance event called the Financial Freedom Summit this May. So super excited about that. It's going to be like 1,400 people in St. Louis, just all talking shop about stuff like this, personal finance, mindset, all that good stuff.
Amazing.
I think that's all my stuff.
Awesome. And one last question. If you were to encourage our guests to donate to a cause or give into a cause, I know you talk about some charities that you supported last year, or maybe talk about the global, when you talk about your girlfriend who, where you travel and volunteer and all that stuff, maybe talk about that, or if anything else that comes to your mind.
Yeah, I wish I had like a specific name of a company, and I'm just not as well versed as she is in it because she's looking into it a little bit harder than I am. But there are a lot of these companies where you can go sponsor someone like myself or my girlfriend Lauren to go live in Cambodia for 3 months, or to go volunteer in Peru, or like wherever needs help. Like any of these countries that are not first world countries that just they don't have the proper care or schooling, whatever the need might be. There are a lot of programs out there that fund these types of missions.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us today. It's just been such a pleasure just learning about you. I love everything that you shared, and I'm sure that our audience will love it and appreciate it as well.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. This has been a lot of fun.
Wow, Cody was such a fun ball of energy. What I love about him is how he talked about, yes, there is an importance to saving, but you could only save so hard and frugal so hard. So the next best thing you could do to improve your financial well-being is to earn more income. And there's really unlimited ways to earn more income. Mm-hmm. I also love how he talked about it's not just about giving money when it comes to serving or helping someone in need. It's really more about the human impact that you get to make when you help someone face to face.
I think for me, I really walked away with the value of the freedom of time, and to not have the worry of having to get up every day and go to a specific job or a place. That's such a weight, I think, that many of us carry every day in and day out, and multiple times during the day sometimes if you have multiple jobs. And it's really important to seek that out and really look at different ways of finding that financial freedom of time. And the other side of it is just knowing where you're at, tracking your spending, tracking your earning, and knowing where you're at so you can move on to that next level. It's really awesome. For our next episode of Wildly Wealthy Life, we are going to meet Tinian Crawford, and I may literally move across the country just to be in this man's community. He is so much fun, and I'm excited to have you listen to his insights on family and community, family values, and how the financial impact of his life has been able to ripple through so many different members of his area. So we'll see you then.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wildly Wealthy Life. We hope that this episode has helped you take another step towards living fully, giving freely, and building a legacy that deeply impacts your community. We'd love to hear what you think about today's show. Please leave us a review or like us on iTunes and YouTube, and click the subscribe button so you won't miss a show. You can also visit us at wildlywealthylife.com for today's show notes. See you on our next episode. Thank you, and may you live a wildly wealthy life.